Let me start by telling you something that the WNBA does not want you to connect. Because if you put these two moments together, from two different seasons, two different teams, the same player, and the same silence from the league office, you start to see a pattern that is very hard to explain away. Brittney Griner targeted Caitlin Clark, not once, twice, across 2 seasons. And both times the WNBA said absolutely nothing. Let's go back to 2025 first, because that is where this story actually begins. The Indiana Fever came to Atlanta to play the Dream. Caitlin Clark was already the most talked about player in the league. Every building she walked into was sold out. Every game she played was watched by millions of people. She had already changed the business of women's basketball in a way that nobody had seen before. And on that night in Atlanta, she was just trying to play basketball. Brittney Griner was suiting up for the Dream that season. And when the Fever came to town, Griner did not just play physical defense. She threw a full body check into Clark. Not a bump. Not a standard basketball foul. A body check. The kind of contact that you would expect to hear a whistle before the motion was even finished. Every single person in that building saw it. Every camera angle caught it clean. And the officials swallowed the whistle completely. Nothing, no foul. No warning. Play on. That alone would have been enough to make people angry. That alone would have been a moment worth talking about for days. But Griner was not done. She picked up enough fouls during that game to get fouled out. She walked to the Dream bench. And then, from the sideline, she screamed at Caitlin Clark. The broadcast camera caught the moment. There was no audio, but there did not need to be. Lip readers and fans watching the footage closely thought they saw Griner calling Clark trash. Some went further and said they saw her say white girl. The clip spread everywhere. Conservative media picked it up. Sports commentators picked it up. Fans on every platform were talking about it for a week straight. And what did the WNBA do? Nothing, no statement. No investigation. No technical foul. Not even a fine. Brittney Griner fouled out of the game, appeared to scream something directly at a fellow player from the bench, and the league that is supposed to run a clean and professional product said absolutely nothing. Griner was eventually asked about it. She said she could not really remember what she said. She said she was mad about the call. She said she would never say something like that. And maybe she is telling the truth. Maybe the lip readers got it wrong. But here is the thing. The WNBA never even tried to find out. They never pulled the footage. They never spoke to anyone on the bench. They never issued any kind of statement. A moment that generated millions of views, massive controversy, and real questions about the culture of the league was just ignored and allowed to die on its own. The Dream lost that game. The Fever moved on, and most people figured that was the end of it. Then June 13th, 2026 arrived. Brittney Griner is now wearing a Connecticut Sun jersey. New team, new season, same player. And when the Indiana Fever came to Connecticut, Griner brought the exact same energy she had shown in Atlanta. Except this time, she did not even wait to be physical in a way that could be explained as aggressive defense. She went straight to the illegal stuff. Clark was moving off a screen in the half court. Standard action, something every team in the league runs 50 times a game. And Griner drove into her with a moving screen so obvious that multiple camera angles caught it from different directions. Full body contact. No attempt to stay legal. No attempt to set a screen the right way. Just a body moving directly into Clark with the intention of slowing her down by any means necessary. And the refs let it go. Not even a look. Not even a hesitation. The whistle stayed in their pocket just like it did in Atlanta. Same player. Different team. Different season. Different city. Exact same outcome. No call. Now let's be very honest about what that means, because some people will tell you that physicality is just part of basketball and that Clark needs to toughen up. And that argument falls apart immediately when you look at what actually happened in this game, because Clark did not need anyone to protect her. She handled it herself. But the question is not whether Clark can survive dirty basketball. The question is whether the officials are doing their job, and the evidence across 2 seasons says they are not. At least not when Brittney Griner is the one throwing the contact at Caitlin Clark. Think about what the officials saw on June 13th. They were standing right there. Clark is 6 feet tall. She is the most recognizable player in the league. You cannot lose her in traffic. You cannot say you did not see the contact. They saw it. They made a choice not to call it. And when officials make that choice, they send a message to every player on the floor. The message is, you can do this to Clark and we will not stop you. You can keep doing it and we will keep looking away. Connecticut heard that message and they ran with it all night. Their entire defensive scheme against Clark was built around physicality because the officiating environment kept making it free. If you foul her and the refs do not call it, then you are getting the benefit of that contact without any of the cost. No free throws for Clark, no foul trouble for your defenders. Just free defense. The Sun knew that if they kept putting bodies on Clark all night without crossing whatever invisible line actually triggers a whistle, she would never get to the free throw line, and her scoring would be harder to produce. And here is the number that proves it worked as a strategy, at least on paper. Clark did not attempt a single free throw in this entire game. Not one. She was touched constantly. She was body-checked on screens. She had forearms thrown at her. She had defenders draping all over her 94 feet from the basket. And she never got to the line. Not one time. That is not because Connecticut played clean basketball. That is because the officials made it profitable to foul Clark and not get caught, and the Sun kept doing it from tip-off through the fourth quarter. But here is where Griner and Connecticut and the officials all made the same mistake. They assumed that if they took away the free throw line, they took away Clark's ability to put up numbers. And that assumption was completely wrong. Clark went 10 for 17 from the field. She hit 5 threes. She finished with 25 points. She did all of that while getting bear-hugged off the ball, while taking illegal screens with no calls, while spending zero time at the free throw line. She did it without needing any of the calls to go her way. An angry and locked-in Caitlin Clark shooting 59% from the field is genuinely a worse problem for a defense than a Caitlin Clark who is just collecting free throws. And Connecticut spent the whole game creating exactly that version of her. But this game was not just about Clark surviving a rough night. The bigger story is what happened when Indiana's other players responded to what Connecticut was doing to their teammate. Sophie Cunningham had missed the game right before this one. She was listed as questionable with a sore elbow. But she came back for Connecticut, and she did not look like a player easing back from an injury. She was not testing her elbow in garbage time. She was hunting. And when the Fever needed someone to close the door in the fourth quarter, Cunningham scored 11 points in roughly 2 minutes. 3-pointers, back to back to back. The Sun had no answer for it. Their whole scheme was built to stop Clark, and when Cunningham caught fire from the spots that scheme left open, it was over. Then came the technical foul moment that actually tells you more about this game than any of the statistics do. With about 22 seconds left in regulation, right after Cunningham had basically put the game away, Clark picked up a technical foul. The league initially logged it as a delay of game violation on Clark personally, and then after the game ended, they quietly reclassified it as a team delay of game foul. Two completely different things, with completely different implications for Clark's personal record. Clark addressed it directly after the game. She said the call made no sense. She said it felt like the official wanted to insert himself into the game at a moment when he had no reason to. She admitted she deserved it, and she said it was worth it. And that last part tells you everything you need to know about where her head was at that point in the game. She was not scared. She was not rattled. She was annoyed, and she let the official know it, and then her team went and closed the game out anyway. But the fact that the league reclassified its own call after the final buzzer is something that deserves a lot more attention than it has received. Because what that means is that even the WNBA acknowledged something was off about how the call was made in the first place. They changed it, after the game, quietly, without any real explanation. If the original call was correct, why change it? And if the reclassification was correct, what does that say about the official who made the original call? Indiana won this game 85-75 on the road. 3 straight wins. And the most important thing about this victory is not the final score. It is the fact that Connecticut could not single out one Fever player to stop, because there was not just one Fever player to stop. Kelsey Mitchell dropped 19 points and 5 assists. Halia Boston finished with 13 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists. Monique Billings came off the bench and gave Indiana 10 points and 8 rebounds as a starter. And Cunningham ended it with that 2-minute explosion that Connecticut had absolutely no answer for. You can build a scheme to stop one player. Griner can target one player. Officials can look away for one player. But when 5 different players are all capable of hurting you on any given night, there is no scheme left that covers everyone. And that brings us back to where this started. Brittney Griner targeted Caitlin Clark in 2025 with the Atlanta Dream. The WNBA said nothing. She targeted Clark again in 2026 with the Connecticut Sun. The officials on the floor said nothing. The league office said nothing. And Clark responded both times the same way. She played through it. She put up numbers. Her team won. The silence from the WNBA across 2 full seasons is the part of this story that should be making every fan uncomfortable. Because what that silence says to every player in the league is that targeting Clark is acceptable. That putting a body on her illegally and screaming at her from the bench carries no consequences. That the most watched player in the history of women's basketball does not deserve the same protection that the rulebook says every player is supposed to receive. Indiana won. Clark dropped 25. Cunningham closed the door. But until the WNBA actually decides to address what Griner has done to Clark across 2 seasons on 2 different teams, this story is not over. The silence from the league is not an accident, and somebody needs to start asking why.